But Donna, we'll start with you. And for all of you, the question is going to be, on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you think you are in terms of AI maturity? 1 being just getting started or haven't started at all. 5 being expert level.
Thank you so much for that. I would say we're probably in the very early stages, so I'm going to go 2. Probably on the safe side a little bit, but we really are starting to explore what it means within this space. And I think no better place to be than here today to really learn from other amazing companies in this space to see how we can drive this agenda.
Great.
Oh, this is a tricky one.
Yeah,
I was like, is there a wrong answer?
We're leading the charge on this. Like what?
Ooh, like I feel the pressure to be a 5, but I think honestly, probably more in the middle, like a 3. Like I think we're getting started, but I think there's so much more we can do as a team to continue this journey. And yeah, I feel like somewhere in the middle, around a 3. Some days I feel like I take a step back to a 2, sometimes up to a 4, but I would say squarely a 3.
I intended to say 3, but now if you say 3,
we can both
I
say
can't
3.
say 3. So I would say between 2 and 3. And I can elaborate furthermore on where do we stand and how do we introduce AI in our different step of our employee journey.
Great. So we have got a Slido on the screen. It'll come back on the screen in just a minute. If you don't mind scanning the QR code, there are going to be 2 questions there. And it'd be great just to get a sense from the audience how you feel you are, where you feel you are on that spectrum of AI maturity, as well as if there was anything, oh, what is going on here? It's going all over the place. If somebody up there can get to the QR code slide, that'd be really helpful. Thank you very much, Darlene.
I see thumbs up.
The AI is not doing this for us.
No,
See,
it's
if
real.
AI was working, then it'd be seamless. But if you can scan the QR code, there'll be a Slido, and I'll share some of the results in just a moment. So there's going to be a little bit of silence. Awkward silence is okay, but we want to hear from all of you. All right, the results are coming in, and I'll give you real time, because it's not going to be on screen. But the first is awareness stage. That's 1, and then 5 is optimization stage. So it's a scale of 1 to 5. Actually, you can't really see the percentages, but I'd say roughly about 60% of people say they're in the awareness stage. Oh, it's changing a little bit. Experimental stage, probably about 30%. Planning stage, 15 to 20%. Deployment stage, 10%. And optimization stage, about 5%. And then the next question around what's the biggest drain on your current HR process that you wish you could automate? This is a word cloud, so I'm just going to say some words that are coming up on Slido here. Queries, scheduling, talent acquisition, data changes, onboarding, reporting. Those are the big ones that are coming up. And so I think on the first question, first of all, I'd love to talk to whoever put a 5 down. That is amazing. But I think for most of us, that sounds about right. Anywhere on the spectrum of kind of 1 to 3 is probably where most of us are. As we get to the questions, we're gonna have a few kind of like practical, how are you using AI questions. We're gonna talk a little bit about challenges, and then we're gonna get into just maybe one last question around what's your kind of big prediction or bold prediction in the future. So the first question I'm going to start with is, how has AI changed your day-to-day? What are some processes that you've automated? Where have you saved time using AI? And maybe I'll start here, Stephanie, with you. And you talked a little bit about it already, but we'll start with you.
Yeah, we have 3 main areas where we started to implement AI. First one is in recruiting. We're basically using ChatGPT or whatever type of prompt that we use to support us in writing job descriptions. It's saving a lot of time to our talent acquisition teams and to our managers. Another example is that at OpenClassrooms, during hiring processes, we systematically do business cases. So we also used AI to support us in drafting the cases, but also drafting what the good answer could look like, which allow us to automate the analysis of the answers. So that's the kind of thing we're doing in hiring. Obviously, in performance, we use a lot of the Lattice AI features. to define OKRs, to review the content of the performance reviews, but also to align feedback that has been mentioned in the video. We've introduced in Lattice and a prompt that is actually correcting the feedback that our employees are drafting. So it can align with the way we practice feedback, which is radical candor feedback. It's one way to do it, but also with our values. And so it's correcting the content of the feedback, so it's aligned with that. And then there is this incredible feature by which we can publish if the person providing the feedback is okay for that. On Slack, we have a channel dedicated to the feedback, which is called Super Like. And so Lattice is sending the feedback on that channel, so it's public to everyone. So those are the kind of examples that we are using AI in different touch points of our HR journey.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Donna or Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what you've just talked about, we have also introduced a lot of the Lattice functionality, which has been really beneficial for our people and saving time, I think. We really took a step back and looked at where as a team we were spending a lot of time on those kind of more mundane, kind of admin-heavy tasks. And actually, because we're in the MENA region, we spend a lot of time on, obviously, visa processing. So I think 95% of our population are expats. So we really introduced a portal called People Experience Portal, and it's very much kind of around automation, but it's AI-driven as well, where we have managed to really streamline the visa processing process for us as an organisation. It's only been in flight now for about 1 to 2 quarters, but we've managed to bring down from 30 to 21 days how quickly we're able to turn around our visa processing times. And really, we're now looking to see how we can elevate that further and look to implement it across all of the operational pieces that we do within the people team. And what's amazing about that is it's freeing up time for our teams and our people to spend their time on, I think, much more value-add strategic work.
Yeah, I like the way you started that, because there was a question in the audience earlier around how do you start with the people? And one of the best answers I heard around AI is, stop thinking about what can AI do and first think about what are all the things, think about your day. What are all the things that you're doing during your day, and what are those things that you wish you could automate? And then think about the AI to then automate those things. So I love the way you started with the people element.
Yeah, this is exactly what we did when we started. We had like a half a day workshop with the people team and some AI experts internally. And we started by mapping the journey of our employees, identifying where we had like the worst experience and where AI could bring the best benefit. And this is where we prioritize. We decided to prioritize with 2 to 3 actions, concrete actions. And I think it's important to start this way, like really being small steps, providing concrete impact, and then you can step up step after step.
So we talk a lot about AI and we talk about automation, but how do you think about it more from the perspective of real transformation, not just saving time, not just automation? I know a big question, but Donna, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, look, I think, as I briefly mentioned at the start, we are very much in the early stages of adoption. And I think where we want to get to is for, the entire people team to be that really strong strategic enabler. And we're looking at, similar to Stephanie, how we can kind of elevate the colleague experience across each and every one of the key touch points of their journeys. And one of the key things we've actually done quite recently is we have designed and rolled out a new leadership academy. It's powered via Docebo, which is, of course, an LMS. And we really have kind of introduced a really scalable modules to really set our people leaders up for success. What we're now looking at is the functionality in that platform that we can layer in those added AI insights. So how can we enhance what we're offering to our leaders within this space to have trackable engagement, curated content that aligns to their development needs, really identifies any gaps in their development and can have those prompts and suggestions on where they can focus their time and efforts, really have those kind of career pathways that's going to support their longer term growth with the organization. And I think for many of us here today, but particularly being based in, we're headquartered in Dubai in the MENA region, really retaining talent is a key kind of aspect that we need to focus on as an organization, and building capability across our leaders as well as our people is something we obviously want to elevate each and every day. So we're looking at how do we utilize AI to really drive even further what we're doing within that space.
So real company change, not just about automating kind of point solution tasks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So automation's amazing. When it frees up our time, that's incredible. But we do want to take it to the next level. How do we really kind of become that strategic partner to the organization that's obviously going to elevate the game and have that really knock-on kind of impactful work that we deliver?
Yeah. And so you did talk a little bit about supporting managers, and when we something that gets talked about a lot is the human element or the human touch. How do you think about AI and relative to the importance of human touch? Can AI replace that human touch? Sophie, maybe I'll start with you.
I mean, I think the simple answer is like no, right? It can't replace it. I like to think of it as like augmenting my work. And so when I think about like AI and I think about what it can do is, you know, there's going to be things in my job that I am less strong at, or I find that I get less energy from, or I find that I just, you know, am not my natural tendencies. And so where I find AI can bring in and elevate me and kind of talk about those superpowers is where it can augment, but it doesn't lose the human aspect of it. So it frees me up to do the things that are what I care about deeply about and what makes me who I am. And so like that's the kind of thing that I've been thinking about more. I like to think about how it can really help me elevate. Like I'm a speak to think type of person. And so when I think about my skills, my talents, my strengths, how can AI help augment those things? So I'm going to have people on my team who care much more about things that are written down, getting thoughtful and like detailed written instruction on things. And so that's not my natural tendency. That's not where I live or thrive or operate. And so I get like a huge amount of drain from that kind of work. And so where AI is able to sort of augment my work is doing that piece of it. And so I feel like that makes me more human because it means I can meet my teams where they're at. I can help lean into their different preferences and styles and approaches while also still being true to what gives me energy and where I thrive and operate. And so that's sort of like how I've been using it to make sure the human aspect is still at the core.
Anything else to add on that?
No, yes, obviously, I think it highly depends on what is it that you want to do with it. I think it's really, Sarah mentioned that, and all the speakers mentioned that, it's really about the culture you have in your company and how do you see the role of AI within your company. So I'm lucky enough to be in a company where we believe the same than you do, is that we want to use AI to empower people and give them more room to be better in their role. I mentioned talent acquisition. Obviously, since we introduced the usage of AI, our talent acquisition team are really way more focused on the relationship and the engagement they have with the candidates. We've seen improvement in our NPS score from candidates about the hiring process about that, because it was really tangible that the time that was saved was just used to have better relationship with candidates and providing more insight and relationship with them. I also mentioned the fact that we use AI to, for instance, define our OKRs. That's a lot of savings of work for our managers, because it's when you want to do it properly, it's really, it gives you, I mean, it's bandwidth consuming. It really requires a lot of time. And so managers now can focus, for instance, during onboarding of employees, not on defining OKR, but actually discussing how you're going to reach your objectives, so you can enter in more deeper and useful and value-added conversations. So those are really tangible ways of what do you do with the amount of time you saved. But again, it depends on the culture you brought in your company.
So there's still a role for us as humans to...
Well, we can, we have, I guess everyone has seen many announcements from like big companies about completely opposite positions. Using AI, for instance, I guess everyone I've read about, I think it's Moderna, who announced that now if you want to open a job, you first need to prove that the job can't be filled with an AI agent or whatever else. IBM, I think it was 1 year ago, they announced that they've been removing, I think, hundreds or even thousands of roles in their company, mainly in what is called support functions like HR. And so they could invest more in, business or tech roles. This is what is happening, actually, around us. That's the landscape in which we evolve. We also need to be realistic about that. That's why I think the positions Lattice is taking or other companies are taking on, no, this is not the world that we want. We don't want AI for that. We want AI to, empower and allow human beings to be better in their work and enjoying their work. But again, the reality is it's not 100% of companies seeing that like that. So us as an HR team, as HR leaders, I think we have a role to play to show the value AI can bring and the value we as HR leaders can bring to companies.
Yeah, you mentioned Moderna. There are a number of other companies, Box, Klarna, Shopify have all come out with similar statements. Before you backfill a role, tell me why AI can't replace that role. So you talked also a little bit about how you respond to that. Donna, anything from your point of view around how do you respond to those fears that it will ultimately take over my job? And we talked a little bit about that earlier as well.
Yeah, look, I think it would go without saying that everyone would agree with this in the room. There is, of course, that fear. I think everyone has it. And I think really the way an organization really kind of encourages adoption and curiosity around AI is super, super important. And I think we've been very open with that as a company. So we've looked at how do we really have that company-wide enablement where we really foster that curiosity. We started with enablement sessions. We looked at what do people need to know around AI, both from a beginner and an intermediate standpoint at an organizational level. And the really comms plan around that was so important. So we said to people, it's not about AI replacing your roles and what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's more about how can it support you to add even greater value to what you do. And really, I think, kind of step up and actually be able to work on those initiatives and projects that people are going to get a huge amount of fulfillment from. And that's the really key part. So with that enablement, we're now taking it to the next level. We're looking department by department. Where do we need to focus our time and resources and efforts to really enhance the kind of skill set? Like our engineering team are much more advanced in the area of AI than perhaps we are in the people team, and we recognize that as an organization. So we want to take that tailored approach department by department and really continue to upskill, taking the level into account where different teams are at. But I think as an organization, we are very much looking at that approach. Really do be curious, adopt that kind of experimentation mindset. Don't hesitate to get involved. See what AI can do to support. And actually, we have a hackathon coming up in the company very soon, where we're encouraging everyone across every single department to get involved. And it's really about how can we utilize AI to really streamline what we're doing across all of our different roles and to add value to the business.
Yeah.
One thing that resonates a ton, and I think you've probably all heard this term as well, and this like sort of sentiment, but I think the thing that keeps coming back to home for me is AI may not replace my job tomorrow, but the thing that I think will and could happen much more sooner than we realize is people who are skilled and taking the time to learn AI may take your job, right? And so like I think there's a real fear there that we have to all be leaning in with curiosity, because if you get left behind on this train, it's more about how are you developing the skills so you can stay relevant and up to date and find those efficiencies. And that's like a real fear that exists today. We are looking for people who have the skill set, who are curious or adaptable, who can come in and show that kind of work. And I think that's just something that we should all keep like top of mind. Absolutely.
What are some recommendations? I mean, you gave an example, Donna, around a hackathon. I know we're doing some things at Lattice, but for those companies who are really struggling with that just even getting started, kind of helping their teams to get over that skepticism of, I don't even know where to start. It's because AI is such a big topic, right? You talk about AI, everything's AI these days, generative AI, agentic AI. What recommendations would you give?
No, actually, we have a free course on OpenClassrooms that I would encourage you to do if you want to. It's called Improve Your Productivity. It has been made completely homemade by one of our founder. And actually, we asked 100% of our employees to just, follow the course. It starts with that. It's 2 hours. It's a very simple one, but very concrete to equip everyone with the basics you need to know about it. And then I really believe in concrete experience. That's why I mentioned the workshop that we had, and we started with the people team so we could lead by example. But that's something that we are doing now with each team, really going from their own experience, their own pain points, working with them on where do you think that AI could benefit to your daily task, and then started with little improvements. And so it becomes, again, very concrete. You see the impact, and then you're willing to go even further. So I think it's very important to be humble and to start with basics, and then learning, and then going step after step.
Yeah, same thing, different font. But like start with something useful. Like, what problem are you trying to solve? What is actually happening out there? Like, don't just be like, let's throw the spaghetti AI at the wall and hope something sticks. Like, let's really think about, like, what is a problem I'm trying to solve, and how can I take that step further? Something we did at Lattice that was incredibly helpful about a year and a half ago now is we formed like a little bit of a committee. We had like, somebody who was like really eager in each department to say like, hey, you're a champion of this. come and teach your peers, come and share these things. We did like lunch and learns, and people came and showed like not just about how they were solving problems at work, but how they were using it, something they were passionate about. And I think just like having that tangible space to say like, oh, that's my like peer. It's not coming just from tops down, although you do need like tops down as well as like, you know, bottoms up. But it was really like showing this. We have someone in our team, Kate, she's this incredible innovator, and she's just always thinking in these ways. And so she was a real leader for us in the people team. And funny enough, I actually think our people team was leading in AI at Lattice first before like any of the other teams. And so just having her come and talk to the team and say, here's like a real problem I was solving. And she was talking about things like, you know, she's very open about saying like, this is my disability and this is how I use AI to like augment my disability. And like, that was just really powerful for her to be like really real, raw, and share this with like the team and showcase ways that it was like actually giving her those superpowers.
Having AI champions in each team is very important indeed.
Yeah.
I'd also add to that, leading from the front. So it's not just about people on the ground, it's the leaders within the business. And not too long ago, maybe a month ago, Sarah had an all hands basically, or a lunch and learn for the entire company to join. And she talked about, as a CEO, how she uses AI to help her prepare for keynotes, or prepare for a company all hands, or prepare for whatever other activities she's involved with. And I think that's also powerful, having your leaders talk about how they're using AI. It's not just hearing them telling people to use AI. So big topic. We can go on for hours on AI, we know that. We only have a couple minutes left, but also wanted to make sure, we've got a lot of people here. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Wanted to save time we probably have time for about two questions from the audience. If anybody has questions, we'd love to hear from you. There's somebody up there in the middle. Actually, I don't think we have a mic going around, but if you want to just shout it out. Yeah, we can hear you.
You talk a lot about, is this okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. You talk a lot about looking at what we can do to make us more productive with AI, and that's brilliant, right? Absolutely, you need to start there, I think. Just wondered if any of you had any examples of where you stretched it a little bit further and thought, how do we make ourselves more strategic by pushing AI, let's say with quantitative data or something along those lines? Anything that you guys are doing interesting in that space?
I'm happy to add a little piece in here. It is very much led by our kind of analytics team, but we have looked at obviously predictive attrition. So we really have built a model internally to look at kind of what are all of those elements that could be contributing to potential talent leaving us in the future. So we've incorporated elements like, you know, the length of service, the tenure, their grade, you know, their performance ratings, their development opportunities, all those pieces. And that has given us a really strong kind of analysis to help us understand what is the potential of, you know, really key talent leaving us in the organization. And what that has essentially allowed us to do is obviously then build action plans to retain those people before it gets to the point where they might decide to leave us. So it's in the early stages, but we have obviously shared that with all of our people leaders as well. So they're very obviously familiar with the tool, how it's been built, and then what they need to do to ensure that they're retaining their key talent. And we want to really build on that model and enhance it further. So every people leader has access to that for their people, and they can build a strategy that's going to work to ensure that they're not just obviously, you know, retaining their people, but they're also providing them with the opportunities that they need to be successful with our organization.
Are you happy to share the prompts?
I'll have to ask our analytics team if that's all right.
Yeah, one more question right here in the... Go ahead. There's no mic yet.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so I guess if you look back a decade at what happened to marketing and growth teams when there was a huge explosion of technology, so quite generalist roles became, quite generalist roles became very specific. So you had your SEO, you had your content, you have your events marketing, all the rest of it. I wonder whether with a sort of explosion of technology across the business and specifically in HR, whether you guys expect the shape of an HR team to change and maybe bring in new specialism or skills from other walks of life.
Yeah, there is a funny thing that comes to my mind. Recently, there is a company that announced that HR and digital team were merging together, and that the role would become like a HR, digital, whatever. And I think that's an interesting move because I think it really reflects on the fact that now technology and people are merged together. And I think that our role is really to anticipate on that We mentioned the fact that job would not be replaced, but the reality is that some roles could actually be fully automated. And we need, as HR teams, to anticipate on that and prepare the workforce competencies by anticipating what are, as much as possible, what are the roles and the competencies that would evolve, and how can we, as HR, equip teams in advance so they can, upskill, reskill, prepare the future, using the technology at the very core of everything. So I think this move is an interesting thing because it really reflects on what's next for us, I think.
I'm going to wrap it up with one last question, actually, for the panelists, which is one bold prediction for the intersection of AI and HR. I don't know if you kind of answered that just now.
Mine, yeah.
It just reminded me of that question that I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
So that was your bold prediction.
Yeah.
Sophie and then Donna.
I think in the theme of enablement, we're going to see that it's going to be completely tailored to how the person actually operates. So like, say you might learn through an article, great. You've learned through a podcast, great. It's going to be able to produce like the content you need to make sure you're enabled and learning in the way that meets you where you're at. I really think like the L&D space is probably the one I would keep a close eye on because I don't think it's going to look anything like it does today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's such a key area we're definitely focusing on as well. I think maybe if it's quite bold, maybe every people leader having like an AI co-pilot. So imagine going into like a calibration discussion and having kind of all of the key kind of input and data points around, potential rating biases, succession gaps based on readiness, feedback, and obviously those prompts that's really going to encourage you to have those value-add conversations as opposed to maybe scrambling to get to the information within that meeting. So I think that would be really, really beneficial, and the value that would bring to conversations and how we could support the business to deliver on the kind of impact and value it needs to bring, I think could be really key.
Amazing. All right. Well, Stephanie, Sophie, Donna, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for the questions.